Everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and I'm here with my brother as we look at the power of Peak. Peak in modern Merfolk. And if you want to see how Peak is so powerful in this deck, how it changes our lines of play, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. So this is a list that I just recently went 5-0 with in a competitive league. The list has been published. You might have seen it. I don't want to go over too much in this list. I know there's a lot of weird choices. I'm playing with like 2 Mutavaults and 2 Tectonic Edges in the sideboard. There's like no relics. But the main purpose is I'm trying to push how good Peak can be. I want to know, how many cards that used to be stock in Merfolk can we now shave because now we have access to our opponent's hand. For example, Mutavault is like a hedge in some ways against sweepers and stuff like that. I have no problem emptying my hand on the board. If I know my opponent has no sweeper, I have no problem dumping my hand in the right sequence if I know exactly what my opponent's removal suite is. So the last time we played Peak, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of it, but I feel like in my last league, there were some really great examples about how Peak improves the play of Merfolk and how Peak changes our lines of play for victory. So let's go check it out. So here is one really good example about how Peak is so useful in the deck. I lost the die roll, and I think that this is a keep because if you can go 3 cards deep, you're going to hit another mana source. So that is why I want to now keep these sort of 1-landers on the draw. So I think you can keep one. I mean, I always kept 1-landers on the draw with Aether Vial, and now I also believe that we can keep 1-landers on the draw with Peak. And you know what? The curve is really low for the most part, so all we need is 1 more land to get online. Even though I guess it's a smidge risky because if it's a Mutavault, this hand doesn't do as much. But I'm playing with Peak. Now so I'm up against a Stomping Ground deck, and I thought at first this is Titan Shift. So I think actually the first thing that I should do is play Peak, so that you'll see why. I played Curse Catcher because I thought that if I do draw my next land on my next turn, I can curve out nice and comfortably against which could be a Titan Shift deck. Also, Curse Catcher can slow down Farseek and Explore. So maybe the Curse Catcher isn't so bad. It's just that hitting our next land drop is going to be really important. So my opponent does nothing. And also, one reason that I want to play Peak on turn 1 is that one of our mana sources is what we're going to see. Okay, let's first look at our opponent's hand. We're up against some Eldritch Evolution deck that kept a super heavy Path to Exile hand. Look, we got Eldritch Evolution. We have 3 Path to Exiles. 3 of them. A Restoration Angel and a Wooded Foothills. So that's good to know. Knowing that all these Path to Exiles are in hand, very important information. So we're done here. I'm going to leave the revealed... Whoops, I'm not done. Okay. So here's the problem. If I play Peak on turn 1, I'll draw into Aether Vial, and then I would have played this for my card for the turn. This does act as a source of mana, and I have no problem playing Aether Vial on turn 2, even on a 1-lander. So we'll look at our opponent's hand. It's Path to Exile, Path, Wooded Foothills, Eldritch Evolution. So maybe slight misplay by me. Although I didn't expect to be up against an Eldritch Evolution deck, but still, if I were up against Titan Shift, I would prefer to have Aether Vial on turn 2. Having Aether Vial is actually really important against Titan Shift because Phantasmal Image copying Primeval Titan is a really powerful play to search out Mutavaults or Tectonic Edges. My opponent gets their Windswept Heath, gets another land. They play Wooded Foothills, so we can cross Wooded Foothills off the known cards. And we draw another Peak. I'm not going to play it right now because it's way more important to play the Aether Vial. Just attack for 1. Opponent still has a pretty clunky hand, so we're not in too much danger. But here's the great thing. Because I know about the Eldritch Evolution, we're going to set Aether Vial to 1 and keep it there for Mist Caller. I can't play Mist Caller because if I do, then they'll just Path to Exile the Mist Caller and then play Eldritch Evolution. So my plan is to get Aether Vial on 1 and then keep it there until they play Eldritch Evolution. I'm not sure what they have at 6 drops, but I don't want to know. And then otherwise, I don't ever want them to turn a 1-drop into a powerful 3-drop, like, I don't know, Courser of Crufix or, what's it called, Tireless Tracker. Tireless Tracker would be really strong on this board with all these Wooded Foothills in hand. So they've played their land drop for the turn, and we still know 5 of the 6 cards in their hand. That's really important information to know. So we are ticking the vial up to 1, but we're going to keep it there. We're going to keep it there. I have a peak, so I can take my time to look for another blue source. And Tectonic Edge is going to help because we can destroy the white sources. Potentially. We'll see what happens with these Wooded Foothills. But now Tectonic Edge can go after this white source and cut them off their ability to play Path to Exile. But so far, I still have the plan. Let's not put Mistcaller in play. So my opponent decides, okay, it's time. Let's put Restoration Angel in play. No problem. So now there's 2 white sources on the battlefield, potentially a third. Although this one cannot fetch a Plains, so this Tectonic Edge can always go for the white source that is grabbed by this Wooded Foothills, whether it's a Sacred Foundry or another Temple Garden. And so I'm gonna be a little patient. I can add to the board with all these Merfolk Tricksters if I find another blue source. So I'm gonna play Peak. And so now my opponent has 4 Path to Exiles and an Eldritch Evolution. So their hand gets even worse. Well, I mean, in some ways worse. In some ways worse. I mean, Path to Exile is not bad against us. It's not that bad against us. So done with that. Oops. So let's get rid of things that we already know. Yeah, so 4 Path to Exiles, 1 Eldritch Evolution. So here's the thing. We drew a Spreading Seas off of the peak, and now all of a sudden, I decided we're not even going to go on the plan of playing creatures. Let's lock our opponent out of all their white sources first before we play creatures. Because I have the option of playing Spreading Seas on the Tectonic Edge to get Merfolk Tricksters online, and our opponent doesn't have any gas right now, so I have no reason to try to compete. I have no issue racing our opponent. I don't need to race them. So still, I'm going to keep this on 1. I never want this Eldritch Evolution to ever get cast. I'm not even sure if they have something for 6 mana in their deck. It's search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. So they can even look for a 5-drop. Anyway, I don't want to deal with any of these cards. So we're going to keep it on 1. I'm going to be patient. And we have another Spreading Seas. All right, so the plan is Spreading Seas the Temple Garden, Spreading Seas the Sacred Foundry, Tectonic Edge, whatever white source comes off of the Wooded Foothills. And then, only then, I can start deploying my creatures to play around the 4 Path to Exiles that are in my opponent's hand. So here goes Spreading Seas number 1. Trying to also hit the green sources at the same time, just in case we might want to cut our opponent off of Eldritch Evolution and get a Phantasmal Image. Not too bad. I mean, I could hard cast that in theory against the Restoration Angel. My opponent fetches. They find another red source. That's great, because now this white source is in super danger to this Tectonic Edge. I discard Master Waves because it's looking pretty expensive right now. They play Birds of Paradise. A little sad, but do you know what? We've got the Mistcaller for that Eldritch Evolution. And that's a 2-for-1. If you can get that in play, that's going to be a 2-for-1. And do you know what? They go for the Eldritch Evolution immediately. No, we're getting the Mistcaller in play. So Mistcaller online, sacrifice it. Any creature that enters the battlefield that wasn't cast is going to get exiled. So you just got 2-for-1. You lost your Birds of Paradise, you lost the Eldritch Evolution, and now we can actually start to go back to the Aether Vial play of putting the creatures in play, and still, we know 4 Path to Exiles are in hand. They have 4 cards in hand. We're not playing any creatures yet. Hell no. We're going to go after that Sacred Foundry. They try to Path to Exile the Restoration Angel. I tell them, no, you can't do that. I'm going to sacrifice the Curse Catcher.
Can't pay for it.
Yeah, can't even pay for it. They want that white. They want that plane so badly. I'm not even going to give it to them.
This is brutal.
Oh, it is brutal. So from here, they're in a ton of trouble. They find a Horizon Canopy. That's not too bad, but it's going to be a one-time shot. I can still sacrifice the Tectonic Edge on it, and even though they can crack it for a card, it still takes their white mana away. So anyway, I believe I place something here. It's not too bad, because if they Path to Exile the Merfolk Trickster, I'm going to get my second blue source. So I don't mind them using one Path to Exile on my cards. But it's just a matter of playing... Let's see, what do I do here? I think I have the option to nail the Horizon Canopy or play the Aether Vial. I might play the Aether Vial, because it doesn't change how many Path to Exiles are used on my creatures. Yeah. Because Path to Exile is live on my Merfolk Trickster one way or another. Although I guess at the right time they could Path to Exile their Restoration Angel. Anyway, they play Birds of Paradise. Play another creature. Still can only play one Path to Exile at the moment. Tap down Restoration Angel, starting to get on the beatdown plan. We have another Aether Vial, take it up. Let's attack. More Merfolk Tricksters. Useful card. And I guess this is where I now put my opponent to the test. Do you want to Path to Exile your Restoration Angel for that white mana again? They instead decide to draw a card. What's going on here? They have P and Kieran Nalaar, but they're now drawing completely dead, because I can put 2 Lords in play. I can put 1,000,000 Lords in play. I've got Island Walk. They can't shoot anything down. Well, they have 1 Path to Exile available to them. P and Kieran Nalaar's ability requires 3 mana. They don't have it. And that is where I'm going to play, I believe... Oh, I don't even do that. Yeah, I play the Merfolk Trickster. They'll play Path to Exile, and I can play, like... I can put 3 Lords in play on my turn. My turn, we got a Lord. Just attack for 6. Don't have to show them anything else, and we won the game. So you tell me, in what world would we not put our Aether Vial to 2? We would keep it on 1 for several turns. And also, not only that, in what world are we like not playing any creatures, and we decide to go on a Spreading Seas plan, despite the fact that our opponent is clearly flooding out. Our opponent has 1,000,000 lands in play, and I decided, let's Spreading Seas them out first, and then Tectonic Edge them out. Like, when would we ever do that? Like, that would just never happen unless we knew exactly what was in our opponent's hand. 4 Path to Exiles and an Eldritch Evolution. In no world would I have ever taken this line. Never. Never would I have just kept my Aether Vial on 1. Never would I have started off with Spreading Seas, despite the fact that it looks like my opponent has infinite mana in play. I never would have taken this line if I didn't have access to my opponent's hand. That is the power of Peak. So here is another match where Peak was useful. I have to admit that my opponent did not run very well. They had to mulligan to 5. We're up against Bring to Light Scapeshift. This is game 2, so it's a sideboarded game. I brought Venser in. And this hand is already looking pretty good against Bring to Light Scapeshift because we've got 2 cantrips. We have a hard count, semi-hard counter against Scapeshift itself, or Bring to Light, and a Tectonic Edge to slow them down.
Mulligan to 5 too.
Oh yeah. They mulligan to 5. But knowing what's in their hand does have an effect on how I play the rest of the game. So I don't play Peak right now. I'm going to play Peak at my opponent's draw step, and I want to do it at the draw step so that they don't have access to remand. If they go to their main phase, if I let them go to their main, like I want to know exactly, I want to know as many cards as they have in their hand. So I have to do it on their turn, but I don't want to let them go to their main phase because if they play a land, then they can play remand and other cards like that. So they do have remand, but they don't have any island. So that's important to know. So they have 2 Anger the Gods, they have the mana for Anger the Gods, and 1 remand. So I don't want to play into the remand, and I don't want to play into the Anger the Gods. Very important information. Oops. Sort of acting like this is an actual game. So yeah, so here's our known information. I draw a Silvergill Adept. That's great. I can cast that off of this Tectonic Edge or the Mutavault. So let's start. So my intention, with what we know, is to attack with Mutavaults and Silvergill Adept, and to not put too many cards on the battlefield unless I can protect myself from Anger of the Gods, or if Anger of the Gods is going to hopefully tempo my opponent out in some way.
You have Deprived though.
Yeah, so we know a mountain, we know about this, and we also know that there are 4 cards left in their hand. We know 2 of them are Anger of the Gods, which they're going to have to tap out to use, and one more is a Remand, which they can't cast at all. So I attack with Silvergill Adept. I believe my intention might be to play Merfolk Trickster at the end of their turn. Don't remember what my intentions are. I believe that is the intention, so but they play instead Search for Tomorrow. And to decide, Search for Tomorrow can find an island, which will activate Remand. And also, Search for Tomorrow... Well, I mean, they're so crippled on land right now that I don't even want them to find a land drop. There is some... So I ended up playing Deprive. I don't know if that's the best use of our mana, because I do have the option to Tectonic Edge a Stomping Ground, which would take my opponent off of Anger of the Gods mana. But I decided to take this line, knowing that my opponent is pretty far behind with what's already in their hand. But, you know, it's open for debate. It's open for debate. You could have let that Search for Tomorrow resolve and Tectonic Edge the Stomping Ground, because they don't know about our Tectonic Edge in hand. On top of that, I wouldn't have missed a land drop either. And I could have played Merfolk Trickster. Actually, do you know what? Maybe that was better. I do like that line. I should have let it resolve, play Merfolk Trickster at end of turn, put 4 power on the battlefield. On my turn, Tectonic Edge something, and have Deprive backup, with Merfolk Trickster also possible to flash in at end of turn, because we have protection from at least 1 Anger of the Gods hit. And then it will very quickly become very damaging. Like at one point we can play... Like, if we have perfect information about our opponent's hand, we can just freely play Lord of Atlantis and attack with everything, because we know they don't have blue mana for Remand, or they can't play these Anger of the Gods because this is all at sorcery speed. So maybe there was a better line here. Here's Peak. So now they have 2 Remands, that's great to know, and they have Escape Shift, which is completely dead for the time being. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah. So I draw another land, that's great. So I'm even more free to do almost anything that I want. I've got this Venser, that's good. So I believe I take the line of just activating Mutavault freely and attacking for 4. And I have the intention of playing, I believe, a Merfolk Trickster at the end of my opponent's turn. Because I can start getting closer to, like, playing Venser. Because if I play Merfolk Trickster at the end of their turn, I can attack for potentially 4. And then if they play Anger of the Gods, then I can play Venser, bounce it, and then attack for 8, which would finish them off. But they found an island, so they've got Remand up. I could do nothing here. I believe I played Merfolk Trickster to force them to play Remand. But you know what? Like, I think a reasonable play here, I think a much better play is just keep attacking for 4 and put the pressure on my opponent to do something. I don't think this was necessary. I think actually that was very unnecessary. I don't know. I had this game, I guess, somewhat locked up, given the construction of their hand and my knowledge of it. You know, I look back on my games and I make mistakes too. I don't play perfectly the first time around.
Or the second.
Or the second, yeah. Because they could have easily have just not gotten a card out of that. They could not play any cards in their hand. They're all dead. And then if I just keep attacking them for 4, I try to force them to take an action, do something. Like even force them to play Anger of the Gods. So we got Merfolk Trickster uses up another Remand. What's going on here? Okay, I activate. Attack for 4. But I don't have perfect information anymore. They have 5 cards. So why am I playing into these Remands? Snapcaster Mage, not a big deal. I believe I play a Merfolk Trickster here.
What version of the card is that?
That is a RPTQ promo. Tap down, Snapcaster Mage, still hit for 4. So if my opponent top decks a mountain and plays Anger of the Gods, they're still almost dead I can attack for 3 with. I can play a land, play Lord of Atlantis, attack for 3 with Mutavault, and then end of turn, threaten Merfolk Trickster, and then I have Venser back up to be able to counter like a Cryptic Command or something. Anyway, my opponent plays Stomping Ground, decides not even try to attack, play Anger the Gods, and the game is over. How do I decide to win this game? Here's Lord of Atlantis. My opponent just had to see Lord of Atlantis and then just completely gave up. So, yeah, so like the point is if they have remand, they remand it back to my hand, and then I just replay the Lord of Atlantis and attack with the Mutavault. So they were drawing dead here. So I hope that illustrated. I don't know if I illustrated the best lines of play after I saw their hand. And certainly, you know, their hand wasn't that bad. And double Anger the Gods, that's pretty good. I just never played into it. But yeah, that is another example of how when you know your opponent's hand, you have such a huge advantage against them. They had no business in this game. They had no chance. So let's go check one more game. So this is the second game of a blue-white control deck against a blue-white control deck. And again, we have Peak, the best card in our deck, as far as I'm concerned. Well, I don't know if it's the best card, but it's maybe the best instant in our deck. So this is game 2. I won game 1, so they get to go first. They did take 1 mulligan. I'm going to start off with Island. I can't remember. I don't play Peak here. I don't want to play Peak immediately because I don't want to let my opponent resolve a search for his Kanta, so I need to keep Spell Pierce up. If I recall correctly, this is what I'm doing. So I'm getting... So I do it at the end of their turn, and I'm just going to hope that it resolves. And it does resolve. They've got Cryptic Command, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Settle the Wreckage, and Timely Reinforcements. Okay, so no Supreme Verdict. We've got a Spell Pierce for the Jace the Mind Sculptor, or the Cryptic Command if it matters. And I don't care so... And Settle the Wreckage, you can sort of play around by not attacking with all creatures. So Settle the Wreckage can be played around, and Timely Reinforcements is also fine so long as I know that there's no like dangerous sweeper in their deck. We draw an Aether Vial, that's great. It's a very good card. And I draw another Peak. So what I really like, I love Peak in the control matchup because... So we got information right now, but that might not be valid later as they've drawn more cards. And so at a more critical moment when we could try to attack for the win, we'll Peak them later and get like even more information. So let's start with Aether Vial and pass. So I'm gonna hold on to this Peak for a point. Okay, so they played the Mystic Gate, so now there's 1 unknown card in their deck. I'm gonna hold on to the Peak though, no point in playing it right now. Another Aether Vial that is good. Do I play it? I think I might have played it because I have a Master Waves in hand. And Master of Waves and Peak go so well in hand when you have Aether Vial because you can Peak at your opponent's turn, then flash in the Master of Waves when you know the coast is clear, and then go in for the win. Peak combos so well with an Aether Vial on 4. So my opponent plays Serum Visions. They could try to play a Timely Reinforcements, but it would only gain them life. It wouldn't gain them creatures. So they play Opt. So now they have quite a bit of... Oh, no. So they played Celestial Colonnade. So they have only one... There's only 1 unknown card in their hand. And frankly, I don't care about it right now. So Tick Vial up to 2, Tick Vial up to 1. We still have the Pierce for the Jace the Mind Sculptor. If they play Settle the Wreckage, I really don't care. And they're going for it. They're going for Jace the Mind Sculptor. All right, so let's Spell Pierce this thing. It's one less card that we need to know. And now let's start playing creatures. So I start with Merfolk Trickster, and I believe I put a Lord in play. Let's get our aggro on. Putting this to 3, putting this thing to 2. So now I'm preparing if the board ever get... Oh, that's a great draw. So now we have a great card against Cryptic Command or Settle the Wreckage or even Supreme Verdict. So I'm now even more confident to get this Aether Vial to 4 and close out the game in a very timely manner. Still don't want to commit too many creatures to the board, though. But I do believe that now we don't have great Supreme Verdict. So that we still have pretty good access to our opponent's hand. We know it's Cryptic Command, Timely Reinforcements, and Settle the Wreckage. Okay, board gets wiped.
Oh well.
Oh well. I believe I put Master of the Pearl Trident in play. We're like basically making our opponent play at sorcery speed. Spreading Seas is like not particularly important, but we're still going to play it anyway. The Celestial Colonnade. Cavern of Souls, that is important. We can play that on Wizard so that we can hard cast Venser if need be. I guess the Spreading Seas is sort of okay because it gives us something we can do with Peak. So now here comes the point where our opponent plays Timely Reinforcements. This is great because now they can't play Cryptic Command anymore. So Timely Reinforcements going to gain them some life. I have no problem with this, really. So this is where I, in response, peek so I can decide what I'm going to do with my turn. Okay, so they have Terminus, which is a little unfortunate. They've got... Well, they have to hard cast it for 6 mana. Interesting that they didn't decide... Or maybe they drew it at a time when the board was empty. And probably encourage them to play Jace the Mind Sculptor so that they could put it back on top of their library. But the point is, it costs 6 mana. If they want to hardcast it, we've got the Venser for it. We've got the Venser for the Settle the Wreckage. We have the Venser for the Cryptic Command. There's a Snapcaster Mage here. We have the Venser for the Supreme Verdict, so no big deal. Okay, so Timely, you can resolve. And we're going to get ourselves a Master of Waves. And we're also going to cut them down on... And now that we have this Tectonic Edge from the peak, we can cut them down on land so they can't even hard cast the Terminus. Just Master of Waves. I'm still going to attack for a decent chunk, like I'm attacking for at least 5. The 3 soldiers can block the 3 elementals, but I attack for 5, and then after that I can attack for 7. Or even more if I get the Venser in play. But I'm super in the driver's seat now. Oh, Phantasmal Image! Now what are you going to do? When are you going to deal with it? How you deal with this position? So they float a white, but I know their hand, so who cares? They have Cryptic Command. Yeah. Snapcaster Mage, Terminus, Cryptic Command. So I attack with all these creatures, except for Master of the Pearl Trident.
What are you going to do?
So they're going to make their blocks. So here's another thing. Why... So now that because I know their entire construction of their hand... I can play this Phantasmal Image freely, because there's no way I can get punished. There's no way I'm going to get punished for this. It's impossible. With Venser backup, like, it's over. They lose all their tokens. I make 1 billion tokens. Fantastic combination here. And the game's over. They're drawing dead. There's not a single card that they can draw that would... Or, hold on. Okay, what would happen if they drew Path to Exile? Because they do have the Snapcaster Mage. So they can Path to Exile 1 creature... So they Path to Exile Master of Waves. Well, I guess I could Venser bounce the Master of Waves. Do you know what? Maybe they weren't drawing dead. I wasn't thinking about Path to Exile. Because if this thing dies, if I let it resolve, then they can Cryptic Command try to bounce the this Master of Waves. So I actually have to do something about the first Path to Exile. Okay, maybe they weren't drawing dead. But this is still like a really commanding position. Oh no, I'm wrong. They didn't have the mana for that. Okay, so I was right in the first place. They didn't have the mana to play Path Cryptic Command. They needed to draw Plains, which in that case means they did not draw the Path to Exile. So I'm incorrect. So I was right in the first place. They were drawing dead. So they're going to take their turn. They're going to attempt to Cryptic Command the team, but I'm just going to play the Venser and bounce this thing, and the game is over. So we can see that I can take much more aggressive lines to close out the game really fast. I can be more patient with my creatures because I know that they have things like Timely Reinforcements, and I can preserve my counter spells for the right spells that are in their deck because I can see them in their hand. I know I am expecting a Jace the Mind Sculptor, so I'm going to save my Spell Pierce for that Jace the Mind Sculptor, and I know exactly the cards that I have to play around, so I know exactly what to save Venser for, and I also knew that their hand was like this is a situational card. They can't just proactively play this whenever they want. They have to wait for us to attack, so this is sort of dead. This was sort of dead because of their mana. So hey, I love Peak, and I think Peak showed a lot how easy it is to play these games. Like this blue-white, I also had a great match with Peak in the game 1 of this blue-white against this blue-white control deck. It just makes these games so easy, so much more comfortable to play when you just know what is in their hand. It's such a busted, I don't know, I don't know if I could call it a mechanic. It's just a busted aspect of Magic. Now I understand why all the Jund players, all the Abzan players, all the Grixis Death Shadow players, all the Death Shadow players in general love Inquisition and Thoughtseize. This is just that's why Gitaxian Probe was banned. Just for no mana, just look at your opponent's hand. So Peak helps a lot. I think it helped me a lot. I think I've taken a lot of lines. I took way more aggressive lines than I normally would have, than otherwise I would have taken. I mean, if I saw a Detention Sphere in my opponent's hand, I might not have played both Ether Vials on the battlefield. But I can take the lines that I did take because I have perfect information. So I hope you liked the video. I hope it gave you some perspective how strong Peak is and how it curbs the way I play a game of Magic. Let me know what you think about Peak. If you have tested it yet at all, let me know in the comments section below. This has been Nikachu with his brother, showing off the power of Peak.